Hi, I'm Femi Oke and you're in the stream. Today, the Malaysian Airlines flight that disappeared a year ago is still missing. We explore one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. We're coming up to the anniversary of March the 8th when a Boeing 777 went missing. It is a huge mystery. Online community, Malika Bilal, are discussing this. They've been discussing this for the last year.
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
Well, so many people online say, though they weren't personally connected to this, they still feel so strongly about the disappearance. So take a look at this tweet. We featured it in our new app. This is from Isudera, who says, "I felt a crushing pain at the bottom of my heart, though I knew no one on board. Malaysia's loss felt like my personal loss." And she uses hashtag MH370. You can see more tweets on that hashtag on our app. And of course, you can tweet us your thoughts for the show with hashtag AJStream.
And the way we love to describe the stream is it's an online community with its very own TV show. And that means that our stories come from you, our community. You can tell us what you care about. Have a look here on my laptop. I'm at stream.aldazero.com. So many ways for you to be in touch with us. There's Facebook and Twitter, Google Plus and Instagram. You can also keep in touch with us via podcast as well. Send us an idea, share us your idea, and you too could end up right here in the stream.
Hi, I'm Shamana Siddiqui. I'm a designer and I'm in the street.
1 year since MH370 slipped off radar screens, not a single clue has emerged about what happened to the plane. And now search parties must decide whether to keep looking. 239 people were aboard the airliner when it took off from Kuala Lumpur for Beijing on March the 8th. 40 minutes into that flight, the pilots said their last words to air traffic control, never to be heard from again. Military radar tracked the plane turning off course west to Malaysia, but an hour and a half into that unexpected journey, the signal was lost. Satellite data later revealed the plane continued flying for more than 6 hours. Now, investigators say that they believe it then crashed into the Indian Ocean. Australia is leading the search, but Prime Minister Tony Abbott is hinting the effort will be scaled back. But there's still so many questions left to be answered. With us to talk about some of these questions in Chennai, India, K.S. Narendran is the husband of Chandrika Sharma, a passenger on MH370. In Sydney, we have Mary Ann Jolie. She is an Al Jazeera correspondent with 101 East, which this week is investigating the mystery of MH370. In Connecticut, Paul-Henri Nargeolet is a deep dive explorer who led the search for Air France 447 and has done more than 30 dives to the Titanic. And in Boulder, Colorado, Michael Exner is co-founder of the American Satellite Corporation and a member of an independent group of experts investigating MH370's disappearance. It's good to have you all here, everybody. Thanks for your time. I'm going to start here with a picture. It's a beautiful picture. This is Narain and this is his Mrs. Chandrika. Tell us a little bit about Chandrika, Narain. What's she like?
Oh, she was a very warm, caring person of tremendous zest for life, who was very principled and somebody who didn't just espouse principles but who lived them in her own ways day after day till the very last day that I met her. So she, in a sense, therefore, to me was somebody who was not just a good mother or a good daughter or a good wife, but essentially she was a very lovely human being.
It's really hard to imagine what it would be like to spend a year not knowing what happened to your wife. I picked up that you said she was. So do you feel that she's no longer around? Some of the families from the MH370 mystery, they still believe that their relatives are alive. You said about Chandrika, she was this person.
Well, this usage has been very problematic for me. Right from the very beginning. It's one of the first dilemmas that I had to confront, whether to refer to her in the past tense or in the present. Yeah. And I think I sort of can't make up my mind quite often. But in my own mind, I have started using the past tense a lot more frequently. And I do believe with so many months that have passed, it is probably what one should sort of start thinking about
Right.
a lot more in the months to come.
So, Marianne, in your investigation, which is coming up on 101 East over the weekend, you talked to a lot of families. Could you get a sense of how they're managing, how they're coping, what happens to them?
I think all of them are struggling in different ways. Some much more openly, and some are, holding it back and just trying to get on, continue their ordinary day-to-day lives. I think in China, the Chinese families have particularly struggled, partly because I think whenever they try to get information, they're closed down much more strongly by their government. So they really feel their suspicions are raised. They don't feel as though they're getting answers. So therefore, they're really struggling with dealing with the whole thing, which is completely understandable, of course.
Well, Narain, picking up on what Marianne just said about the struggle to get information, we asked our community online, what can governments and airlines do in future instances? And this is one of the replies. A lot of people thought this: be honest and transparent and admit humbly to mistakes. Narain, how have authorities been interacting with you and other family members?
Well, for a start,
Okay,
none of the was it Marianne or?
Well, it was a question to Narain,
Narain.
but after Narain,
Okay.
Marianne, please go ahead.
Okay, let me just quickly respond to this question. I think after the initial couple of months where it is quite clear that Malaysia was in charge, and so therefore they had some responsibility to answer to the families and to the public at large. In the more recent months, it's been very unclear when we speak of authorities, who do we refer to? The airlines have kind of slid into the shadows. They simply don't seem to think they have any responsibility anymore, except to keep something called a family support center going, and which largely operates as a call center. The Malaysian authorities would keep pointing to the JACC in Australia and say that they lead the search, and they await inputs from the Australians, and the Australians are quite happy and content to release an occasional search update, and which is largely a standard format stuff with a few lines change here and there every 10 days or so, which just doesn't give you a sense of actually what's the pace of progress of the search.
Right.
It's piecemeal. It doesn't seem to be sufficient, but that's the way it's been. Press conferences have completely come to a halt. So we have no way to ask or to clarify or even to press ahead with some question that we might have. So that's been the story so far.
All right, and the JACC, which Narain mentioned, is the Joint Agency Coordination Centre. Marianne, let me just bring in this little clip here it's a little preview of what we can expect from the 101 East investigation, where you tried to get some answers for the families. Can you just set up the clip just a little bit? You were trying to get the Malaysian authorities to talk to you. You ended up kind of doorstepping them a little bit. What were you trying to find out?
Well, we had actually put in formal requests for interviews with both the Malaysia Airlines and the Malaysian government departments, but for 3 months were continually told we wouldn't be able to get an interview. So when the Chinese families went to the Malaysian Airlines headquarters in Kuala Lumpur, we followed them there, and it seemed like a good opportunity to at least throw a couple of questions at them as to how they were going to help the families who were there on that particular day, and just also to see whether or not they may give us an interview. But
all right, so take a pause. Let's find out what actually happened. Have a look at this.
Any other thing that we would like to say, we will send out the official statement.
what about an interview with somebody from Malaysian Airlines with television?
As I said, today the focus is the meeting between the representatives of the NOKs, the representatives of the family with the company. Let's focus on that first.
All right, so this, I can only imagine, this must be incredibly frustrating for the families, for people who are supporting the families. Paul-Henri, what goes on in a situation like this in terms of the search, the actual search? What's going on right now that you can actually share with us to help us understand why it's taking so long?
First, even if you look at what we did on the Air France Fly, and exactly the same thing with the Malaysian airline. At the beginning, everybody is trying to do as fast as possible to do something. I mean, to send equipment for listening the pinger, or to send what happened with the Malaysian Airlines. They sent an AUV, and the AUV even was not capable to go at the deepest point.
Okay,
that's
so Paul Henri,
the first
a
phase.
UV is an underwater vehicle, and the pinger is the the signal that goes from the plane up to the satellite. So as long as that signal goes there, you kind of get a sense of where the plane is. So those two things are kind of quite helpful technically for us to understand.
I will say the pinger or underwater is attached to the black box, and
okay.
If the pinger are working, maybe we'll have a chance to hurt him.
Right.
Somebody was asking a question.
Yeah, Michael, what did you want to add?
Michael?
Oh, sorry, Narain. Go ahead, Narain.
This is Narain here.
Yeah.
Paul, I just wanted to check a couple of things with you. Now, I have seen these ships keep going back and forth from port to the search area, and it's almost as if, it's like a story of somebody who has incontinence and who has to keep rushing to the bathroom every now and then. So, I'm just wondering, actually, how much time does a ship get at the search area? Are there other ways in which ships could have been refueled, resupplied, rather than have it go to port every now and then?
No, I will say, from my knowledge, they had a lot of technical problems, because it's hard to work at this kind of depth, 4,000, 5,000, 6 kilometer, deep is very difficult. And for me, and I'm sorry to say that to you, because I know you are in a hurry like all the family, the real search on the sea itself was really starting few weeks ago. Before it was a preparation. They have to do a map, because before to send equipment, you have to know where you are going. And they were in this area, there is no real map. And
Paul Henri, I mean, this is amazing that you say that this search the real search started a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, that's almost a year after we lost the plane.
Yeah, because the first phase is like if everybody is trying to help. I mean, they send the ship ready, anything, but it's not the right equipment. And the people remember the Chinese, they heard a pinger, but they were using a diving equipment that could go maybe at 500 meters, no more than that. And in the same time, the U.S. Navy was trying to go at 4,000 meters, and they heard something, and they say, oh, it's not the right frequency, it's almost the frequency, but it's not the same one. But they say, oh, the frequency can change,
Paul Henri,
which is
this normal, or is something gone awry here?
Paul?
Yeah,
this is
Michael.
Yeah, this is Mike.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that our best information is that the survey completed, sometime around last October or so, and the search vessel, starting with Equator, they were on the job starting in November. So they've been searching for quite a while. They've actually covered what ATSB reports to be about 40% of the area so far.
All right, gentlemen, take a pause.
Like Maureen was saying, the ship was going back and forth. Why? Because they have problem with their equipment. Everything was not, I don't know if you're not very well installed on board the ship. You never know. But, for me, I really think that everything started beginning of February.
All right, gentlemen, take a pause for a moment, because you're way ahead of us, and we want to make sure that we stay up with you. The ATSB is the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. They are in charge of the search. What is the online community wanting to know?
I wanted to share this comment on Facebook because it encapsulates what so many of us, myself included, really thought when this first happened. So this is a comment we got from Michelle, who says, in this day and age, with all of the technology, it's hard to believe a plane has simply disappeared. And so then you have people on Twitter saying things like this. Michael, I'll read this to you. BAME says, the right question is, are they looking at the right place? There are too many irregularities. Are they, Michael?
Oh, they absolutely are looking in the right area. A lot of people have criticized Inmarsat or suspected things about them, but the Inmarsat satellite data is very solid. I have familiarity with this company going back many decades.
I'm sorry, Mike, but I would like for the public to remember to the public who is Inmarsat. Inmarsat is a maritime telecommunication system. What is the purpose of Inmarsat? Is the people at sea now on the plane can call land, or people from land can call a ship and talk. What is the purpose of Inmarsat is that the people are paying their bill every month. Now, I agree, and I work with some people from Inmarsat when I was living in England. They are very nice people, and all the engineers from Inmarsat are trying to do their best to help. But the system in Inmarsat is not at all made for knowing the position of a ship at sea. They doesn't care about that. What they care is that the people pay their bill. And when you say, and I agree with you, the only data we have actually is the data from Inmarsat, but they are very small, and you can see why, because you have 5 or 6 companies that are trying to do something with all this information, and you have a zone which is 60,000 square kilometer, which is a huge one. Even on the Air France Fly, we have a zone of 17,000 square kilometer, and I can tell you it was a huge one. It was almost the size of Switzerland. Now is 3 times the size of Switzerland. And it's like if you ask me, PH, here is a flashlight, and go and look for that. I will say Inmarsat, I know they are doing the best they can, but their information is very, very little.
All right, gentlemen, take a pause for a moment. This is Michael Pour-Henri. I can see Narain. He is frowning right now. This is not necessarily great news for you, Narain. What would you like to know? Because I know you're not getting much information from the authorities. What would you like to know from Michael or Pour-Henri that might be useful for you and the families?
Actually, let me ask Michael a couple of things which I think might be useful for us to know. Do you believe, or can you confirm that all data that Inmarsat shared with the Malaysians were actually made available to the public and to the independent group that you are a member of? So that's, I think, quite important, no? Because we suspect, and I've seen some of the correspondence within the independent group as well, which is up on the blogs and so on. And it does point to gaps in data, varying sets of assumptions which could lead to very divergent conclusions. So when you talk about solid data and solid and with a certain air of certainty about the search zone, I would like to clarify this with you as to what is the source of your confidence, and also whether there has been full disclosure to the public and to the independent group to be able to make full use of it.
All right, so Narain, I totally get what you're saying. Is like, do we know everything, Michael?
Yeah,
is anything being kept secret?
Yeah, the answer is that Inmarsat fully disclosed their log to Malaysia, but Malaysia, for some reason, has redacted that log and left us only with the most important parts of the information. The parts that they've redacted are not really absolutely necessary, but they would give us some additional clues that might be helpful at the margins. But the BTO, or burst timing offset data, and the BFO, or burst frequency offset data, have been validated and
Michael, what does that mean? Just very quickly in a sentence, because I'm going to push on to see what's happened in the last year. Go ahead, in a sentence.
In a nutshell, these two values, BTO and BFO, give us the position of the airplane with certain uncertainty limits on it.
So you're not saying, and again, just very briefly, Narain may be implying that is there something quite devious going on behind the scenes? Do you see that? Do you feel that?
I feel like the Malaysian government has withheld a lot of information for which there's no excuse. However, I think Inmarsat has provided us with everything we need.
All right. Okay, got that. Let's move on. America.
Well, Femi, you talked about moving on to what's
everything
happening.
We need, but it's a so big area. I don't understand what is a solid information when you come with an area of 60,000 square kilometer.
Well, the 60,000 kilometers is a very conservative band of the seventh arc. This is the line of position from the satellite that we know within about 5 miles. We know where that line of position is very accurately.
All right, and
And-
the seventh arc is sort of where the pings from the satellite data and where the plane was in the last few hours that we could actually find it, and it's just on an arc, which people refer to as the seventh arc. Pushing you along, gentlemen, because we have a few minutes left.
Well, Femi,
Monica.
there's so much really good information coming out of this show, but I want to take us to Twitter where people are reacting as humans do. This is the feelings that I'm seeing. Chinemo says, I'm worried about our technology. We should at least have a clue of what happened and went down. The entire world failed dismally. So, Marianne, I'm wondering if you can tell us over the past year, what's changed for airlines? Have there been flight procedures and protocols that have changed because of this?
Well, I don't think anything's changed yet. I think there's trials happening. I think Australia and Indonesia are trialing some tracking system on planes. I think Qatari Airlines are doing things. But, there have been pushes to pressure to make these changes really since the Air France flight disappeared. And they haven't been made, partly, I think, because there's been resistance from the industry. But also, are people going to be prepared to pay for this sort of tracking device when they buy their ticket on a plane? But as one person also said to us, one expert said, it really, yes, you can have all of these tracking systems in the world, but you still have to rely on air traffic controllers to be doing their job, to be following things up for like civil aviation, to contact the Defence Force, radar people, to make, so it's only one measure to ensure that a plane doesn't disappear. It's not going to solve every problem.
Right, I want to show our audience something, Marianne. This is from the 101 East Twitter feed. Have a look here on my laptop. Here we go. With no money, Chinese MH370 next of kin are sleeping on the streets in Malaysia, waiting for Malaysia Airlines to respond. And then another picture here. This is from last month with the Chinese families arriving in Malaysia's capital demanding answers. This is heartbreaking. It's painful even to look at these pictures, and I have no relatives who were on this plane. For you, Narain, how much support are you getting from each other as a group of families who are waiting for an answer, waiting to hear something?
I think I've been fortunate that I've been in touch with a large number of families through email, through Facebook, and the occasional Skype calls. So I think this being in touch with one another has been very, very crucial, because it helps us to exchange information. It helps us to know what our general state of being is. For example, there was a time, I remember in August or September last year, we were just completely exhausted. There was just a state of fatigue that had set in across many families.
Sure.
That were trying to make sense of what was happening and trying to push some things along.
Yeah.
And there was just absolutely no movement, and we were just completely exhausted.
Narain,
And just simply to be able to share that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just in the last moments of the show, what will you be doing on March the 8th?
On March the 8th, what I do have in mind to do is to just get up early enough and head out to the beach, spend some quiet moments,
Right.
and come back.
All right. We're thinking about you. We're thinking of all of the families with relatives on MH370. If you want to dig deeper into this mystery, you can do that by watching Marianne Jolie's full investigation into MH370 on 101 East, and that starts Thursday at 22:30 GMT right here on Al Jazeera. That's all the time we have for right now, but stay with us. So many more questions, so much more to talk about. We'll be doing that on the post show at stream.aljazeera.com. Until then, see you online. Thanks for watching. Hello, welcome back to the Streams Online Post Show. We're talking about Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 still missing a year after it vanished. This show is not big enough to contain the conversation that we need to have. Conspiracy theories. Narain, what have you heard? What circulates? Which ones do you think, well, there might be something to that, or that is ridiculous?
I'm not going to list all the absurd ones that you and I know, and many of our readers and viewers know. I do think there is some merit to explore such of those theories that have to do with a land-based search. I'm not too sure how complete the story has been about the reasons and the evidence that led to altogether giving up the arc that runs along land. And so I think there are many theories that have to do with what it has meant to perhaps find the aircraft having either landed somewhere or so on. I think some of these have to be exhausted. They have to be looked at. They have to be exhausted. And if they're being ruled out, I think the reasons for ruling them out have to be more detailed and presented to the public in a way that they're convinced.
All right. Listen, Narain, as you talk about the land-based search, I'm shown here, this is the 7th arc here, and you can see some of it goes on land, some of it goes over sea. I'm going to say, Malik and I, just in between the break between the main show and this show, you were talking to me about the online community. What did you say?
A lot of these details are very technical, but what they keep going back to is how could this happen, and how do we go about making sure it doesn't happen again?
Because they were a little bit lost in the conversation. All right, who do you think, from our guests, could help them unpack what happened?
Marianne, do you want to try? Because, of course, you've been reporting on this for a while, and you're talking to the families who are really feeling the same things to a much worse extent, of course, that people online are feeling confused and wondering why this happened and what happened.
I'd like to address that 7th arc question, too, when you're done.
Absolutely. All right, Michael, hold tight. We're going to go to Marianne first, and we'll come straight back to you.
Well, I think, for the families that we spoke to, and for like the lawyers who are now looking at mounting legal cases, the crucial 2 hours after the planes, well, not quite 2 hours, hour and a bit after the plane's transponder went off, was, the fact that nobody knew really what was happening to the plane at that stage. Malaysian Airlines was saying the plane was over Cambodia for almost an hour. I mean, the fact that nobody knew where that plane was, and there was so much incompetence amongst the air traffic controllers and the Defence Force and Malaysia Airlines, that I think that was, a real problem for the families.
And the transponder is the radio transmitter that connects the communicates between the plane to ground radar. All right, so Michael, be kind to us, because there's a lot of people not understanding what we're talking about here online. So be kind to us as you address the 7th arc issue.
Yeah, I wanted to address this question of how do we know it's in the water and not over land.
Sure.
And with one caveat, if one simply believes that the data that's been collected has not been spoofed, with that one caveat, if you believe it was actually measured and it came from the airplane, then we know where this 7th arc is within 5 miles. And we know from the fact that the satellite is not in a geostationary orbit that it absolutely went south. If you believe in the data, it went south, and there's no question about it.
So that's what you're clinging on to, the data which shows where the plane last was. You're really confident that that's where the plane, well, will it be found, Michael?
Well, I'm confident of where this line of position is within 5 miles, but where exactly along the line of position it is still uncertain. However, our most recent work has led us to a belief that we know where it is within a couple of 100 miles,
So why don't they just fly there and find it then?
Mike,
Well, they're
Mike,
searching right there. That's where they're searching right now.
I have a question for Mike. How do you explain that they never found any debris in this area? And they went for weeks
Yeah.
and weeks we explain on this area. How do
Well,
you explain
there-
we never found any debris?
Well, from several parts of the data and simulations that I ran in the 777 simulator, we're pretty sure that the airplane went in at a very high speed, possibly
All right, so Michael,
supersonic.
slow down here. So that you got in a 777 simulator and tried to work out where it would have run out of fuel. What's going on? How did you do this? I'm trying
Yeah, we
to work
ran
out what you're
about
talking
4
about.
hours of simulations, and
All right.
in those
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so we were in the simulator on November 2nd for about 4 hours, and we ran a number of end-of-flight simulations to determine what would happen if the left engine went out first, what would happen if the right engine went out first, what happened if they both went out. And no matter what configuration we try, the airplane goes into a fairly steep spiral dive within a matter of minutes. And I communicated these results to ATSB, and their comment coming back was, that's exactly what we saw in the Boeing test.
This is really complicated. Paul
And
Henri,
that doesn't explain why we never find any debris. Because for me, you know, I
Well,
have
at a supersonic speed, Paul, it would have been confetti.
But what about the Air France flight? Didn't it crash
You know,
into the
Air,
ocean?
Yeah, well,
France
you know,
came
Air
in
France-
pancaked. It pancaked in at a fairly low speed, belly first. It's nothing like this kind of descent that goes in almost straight down.
all right, so
I have
we
a
don't know.
question.
I think we don't know. We don't know. That, you know, is like with a
Well,
mathematical module and
the
Inmarsat.
BFO data supports that too. We're measuring 0.68 Gs about 30 seconds before impact. It was accelerating at over 300, or it was going more than 300 miles an hour and accelerating at 0.68 Gs at an altitude of about 10,000 feet.
all right, so here's the
You
thing
know-
that I think a lot of people will be watching is, I don't know what's going to happen with the end of this search for MH370, but do we have the technology for this not to happen again? Why should it be such a big mystery? How do we resolve this, Paul Henri, for future families and passengers so they don't go through this year of angst and trauma?
You know, we can do something only if we found the black box and we know exactly what happened. Before, it was everybody is trying to say, you know, we can say maybe they were lost, maybe we don't know what happened.
Yeah.
You know, and you can imagine anything you want. You know, any scenario it could be possible that somebody shoots the airplane by not by accident and not by mistake. We don't know. You know, the only possibility is a black box. With the black box, we will know exactly what happened. Knowing what happened, we will see if it was a volunteer act, or if it was because the plane was lost, or because there is a... Before that, we don't know. That's why it's absolutely necessary to find the black box and to know what happened. That's all. And after that, the aviation can decide to do something or not. You know, with Air France Fly, we understand what happened, and we know that all the expectation and stuff like that, they were not necessary. There was a problem with a pitot tube. The plane was at the wrong place at the right time. That's it, you know. And we don't know so far what happened with the MH370.
Narain, what do you need? What do you need to happen in the next few weeks or so to make your situation better? Do you need to know what happened to your wife? Do you need to know what happened to the plane? How do you come to terms with this sort of limbo that you're in?
I think it'll be important to know what really happened. And I think the questions of what happened, where is the plane, what might have come of the passengers, is there a possibility at all of, you know, laying claim to them? I think these are important questions. I don't think myself or most families have, in a sense, given up pursuing this. So I think these questions will continue to remain important to us, not just in the weeks ahead. I'm hoping that in the months ahead, if the weeks don't suffice.
Sure.
But Maureen, what you have to be sure is actually the people who are doing the search, they are doing the best they can with the best equipment they can find, and they are trying the best. I will say, including Mike, with what you were saying, they are studying everything. They are Inmarsat is the only good thing we can have, even if for me is really little. I disagree with Mike about that, but I know that, and that is very important. Nobody is trying to hide something, or they are doing their job and the best job than possible, and the family has to know that, because that is very important to the family, and everybody is trying to find this plane and to solve this problem.
Marianne.
All your words are very...
Yeah, go on,
All
Noel.
your words are quite... Yeah, all your words are comforting, but I think over the months, one of the things that I think most families have cultivated is a very, very healthy dose of skepticism of anything that comes our way by way of information. And so it's been very hard while I listen to Michael and hear his confidence in the kind of information that he's been working with. This is the first time I'm seeing somebody who's standing on some ground and saying that I stick by the ground on which I'm standing. And it's not very easy to go along, and I'm sure that's perhaps the response he gets from some others as well. Having said that, I'm willing to go with whatever comes up, but I think I would just like to know that it's credible.
Marianne, for the 101 East program that's coming up on MH370, I don't want to give anything away from the investigation, because it's really helpful just to recap what happened in the last year and what's been going on. Do you provide answers, though, in your investigation? Did you find answers?
No, I don't think we do find answers, actually. We kind of find answers in the sense of, we put out there what the families feel as though they need. Yeah. But no, we're sort of trying to put pressure on the authorities to give answers, I guess.
Sure.
To be more transparent rather than not.
Absolutely. Let me just check back in one last time with Malika.
This is the final word from Hossein, who says, no matter what happens, the search must continue. And we got a few tweets of people saying that. If not to find the passengers or the crew, then to avoid similar incidents in the future.
All right. Thank you very much.
I would agree with that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Too.
Yeah. All right, so thank you very much to the guests. You have K.S. Narendran, Marianne Joly, Paul-Henri Nargeolet, and Michael Exner. I really appreciate your time today in helping us understand this tragedy a little bit better. Moving on to our Monday program. It has been 20 years since a historic UN conference brought thousands of women together in China to demand global gender equality. But what real progress, if any, has been made in the fight for women's rights? That is a conversation we'll be having on the next AJ stream. See you soon.